Welcome to Intuitive Transformations with your host, Sylvia Henderson, and discover tools, wisdom, and inspiration that will empower you to transform your life. Sylvia is an intuitive life coach and energy healer with a growing practice that is focused on empowering others to be more of who they want to be. For the next hour, join Sylvia and explore and unravel anything in the way of you creating the life that you would love to live on the OMTimes Radio Network.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Intuitive Transformations radio show, where you will learn tools you can use to change and transform your life. This is Sylvia Henderson, and I am your host, and you can find me here every Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on the OMTimes Radio Network, the voice of consciousness at OMTimes.com. If you would like to learn more about me, you can easily do that by visiting my website at intuitivetransformations.net. That's .net, not .com. And if you sign up for my newsletter and email group, you will receive a special audio download called Healing Fear During Uncertain Times. And this is a gift from me to you that will support you through what is very quickly becoming a year of constant uncertainty and change. And I'm really excited because I've added something brand new to the radio show tab on my website. And as you know, if you've listened to my show for a while, that I love featuring authors on my show who provide valuable information in the form of the books that they write. And I have created a radio show bookstore on my website that allows you to purchase every single book from every author I've ever interviewed directly from my website. So if you really like this show, or dare I say even love this show, as so many of you have shared with me, then please support me by purchasing the books written by the authors featured here on the show directly from my website at intuitivetransformations.net. All you have to do is just hover your cursor over the radio show tab, and that's where you're going to find my radio show bookstore. They'll be in a drop-down box. So with 2017 being the first year of a 9-year cycle, the energy of this year really opens the door for new opportunities, new ideas, fresh starts, and lots of new beginnings. So with this being the spring season as well, and it's the natural flow of nature with spring to bring forth new birth and new life, I am making a lot of new changes to my website and to my business, and I'm expanding into a lot of new exciting opportunities that I honestly never even considered before. I've expanded my services, for one, to include intuitive readings. In the past, I've only done healing sessions, especially working around the level of belief systems. And in those sessions, I do use my intuitive giftings, but I've never before felt comfortable just kind of having a separate service called intuitive readings. And I have to be honest with you, I really struggled with this actually for several years because I was afraid of letting people know that I'm actually psychic. And I know that sounds crazy, especially being on OMTimes.com, but a lot of it has to do with my early childhood and being very shut down by others and even punished for being just way too intuitive and knowing a little bit more than I should as a young child. And it's those early childhood traumas where we are shut down and our voice is silenced that literally create brick walls of fear that can block us from our most potent potential. And that's what was going on within me. And I'm sure that some of you listening can even relate to that as well, where you've never really felt like, I can speak my truth. Heck, I'm on the radio, right? But it's more about being just speaking your naked, authentic truth, and especially when it's unique and different from what other people might project out there in the world and being concerned about being judged, just being honest. So it never really ceases to amaze me. I can't even talk. It never ceases to amaze me that once you can clearly identify what's been holding you back in your life, how easy it is to just release it then, and then that just changes everything. So I'm very happy and I'm relieved to say that I finally broke through that old paradigm of fear of being punished. And I am waving my woo-woo flag loudly and proudly now. So it's on my website. I'm offering this as a brand new service, intuitive readings. And you're going to see lots of other new changes happening on my website over the next week as a result. So if you would like a reading with me, you can book that on my website now. That's already up and running. And the rates are significantly less than my normal service fees for the healing sessions. Let's see, what else do I have to tell you? Oh, and I'm also, this is really cool, I'm developing a curriculum for an online course that will teach you how to successfully build a heart-centered business. Now, I'm one of the OMTimes experts, and this class is going to be available on the OMTimes Experts educational platform once that's available, and I will definitely let you know when that's ready to launch. And let's see, I have some other fun things in the works in partnership with OMTimes that I can't share with you yet, but as soon as I can, I will share that information on the show as well. So lots of new beginnings ahead for me on the very near horizon, and I hope that you are also taking advantage of spring's fresh energy to birth something new, to create something new in your life as well, because now is the perfect time for you to create something new. And I encourage you to jump in and just do it, and make sure that it brings you joy and that you have lots of fun doing it, because that's really important as well. So today is Thursday, May 4th, 2017, and we are going to talk about new beginnings today, in particular, new love relationship beginnings. We're going to talk about how to let go of a relationship if it's not working for you, how to know when it's time to let go of a relationship, how a breakup can actually lead you into a breakthrough, and how to move out of self-doubt after a breakup. This show is going to be fun, fun, fun. That's the theme for me for spring. Fun, fun, fun. Because why? It's all about love. And love should be fun. So joining me today is Tatiana Jerome, and she has managed to turn what she learned from her own personal love relationship experiences into a thriving career counseling women. Tatiana has built a thriving online presence for herself and her work, and she speaks at a variety of organizations, teaching women how to turn their heartache from a breakup into self-empowerment. She is the author of Love Lost, Love Found, A Woman's Guide to Letting Go of the Past and Finding New Love, and she is joining us here today. Tatiana Jerome, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Well, I'm really glad that you're here, because who doesn't want to talk about love, right? And who has not experienced a breakup in their life, right? So I'm just curious, Tatiana, what happened in your life that inspired you to begin your journey of helping other women turn their heartache into empowerment, and then caused you to then write your book?
I think it was just a whole bunch of things that just collided all in one time, or, you could say a season, as you were saying earlier, because I was already helping women. I was helping my friends, and it just spread just in that way. And so I was already interactive on Facebook and other social media. And then I was in a relationship myself, and then I went through a breakup. But before that, people were already telling me, you should write this stuff down. I'm like, no, I don't really feel like writing this stuff down. But then when I went through my own breakup, that's when I wrote, because this was one of the worst breakups I've ever experienced ever. And it wasn't so much how the breakup happened, but how I handled it. And it was like I couldn't get out of bed, I couldn't eat. The symptoms were really bad, and I've never experienced that before. And because I like to write, that was the time where it's like, okay, now I have something to say, to put in a book. So I wrote, and then that's how that came about.
So was this a breakup then that you initiated, or is it a breakup you were kind of blindsided by?
I want to say I was, in hindsight, I can't say I was blindsided, but at the time when the breakup happened, I would say I was blindsided. But, you know, retrospect, like introspection after that, it's like you could have seen that coming. And then, yeah, it was, I just remember myself in bed and I wouldn't get out, and I felt like I was hot and cold, all these symptoms, all because of how I felt. And it was just triggered by things that I thought would happen. I wanted my desire so much to be with this person, like I was going to have everything with this person. I couldn't see it with any other person because of things that were said and promises that were made. And then it didn't happen that way. It just was like, what happened? And I just, that just progressed and progressed into the book. And that's why a lot of times I always say you have to take care of yourself, because that's what I lost myself in, taking care of myself. I was more concerned with taking care of him and making sure the relationship was going in a direction that I thought it should go in. So I was trying to control the relationship, and meanwhile I wasn't taking care of myself. And I realized, of course, I couldn't control the relationship.
Yeah. That's a huge aha moment for a lot of women. I think when they have that wake-up call, it actually is a really good wake-up call. So we're going into a break. We'll return after just a few moments with more of Tatiana Jerome and Love Lost, Love Found on the Intuitive Transformations radio show on OMTimes.com.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I was sensitive to lights and sounds, so I built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. Sometimes I did the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
And we're back, everyone. You're listening to Sylvia Henderson on the Intuitive Transformations radio show if you're just tuning in. And I have with me today my guest, Tatiana Jerome, author of Love Lost, Love Found, A Woman's Guide to Letting Go of the Past and Finding New Love. And I'll be honest, I think this is a book that men should read too, because some of the things that she identified, some of the patterns that she identifies in this book, I think can cross the gender divide and also apply to some men. Not all men, but some men. And so, Tatiana, before we went into the break, you shared a little bit about a really big breakup that you had that caused you to in some ways you couldn't get out of bed. It was devastating for you. And you weren't blindsided, even though you didn't initiate it. And this brings me to a very important point that you talk about in your book, and that is really knowing when it's time to let go instead of trying to control and maintain the relationship for the sake of the relationship. So before we talk about knowing when it's time to let go, why do you think that some of us clinch onto relationships that we know are not going to serve us, that they're not that supportive? Is it just the familiarity of it? We try to, is it that we're afraid of changing? What have you found to be one of the main reasons that we do try to hold on to relationships when we see the energy changing in that relationship?
I think the biggest thing, there's several things, but the biggest thing is hope. We just have so much hope, especially since we've seen the good side. We feel like, oh, this person was like this before, so maybe it's a phase, or maybe I have to go through this thing, and it's gonna, even though it lasted 2 or 3 years, and we're just hoping that things will get better, and especially when it's this person that you want. And then sometimes, again, like you said, it is times that we're comfortable, or I'm tired of dating, or I'm tired of the next thing, or we're like, you know what, I've been waiting for someone for so long, and this person came in, so I'm hoping that there's a reason why this person came in, and we want to believe that reason is this person's supposed to be here for a long time. Like, I had a friend, I remember she said this, and it always stuck with me when she was like, I just can't afford another heartbreak. And I think that when you say something like that, it's coming from a place of, hurt and everything else. But when you say something like that, you are susceptible to staying in something, or that is too long, or you're just like, you know what, I don't want to enter into anything right now anymore. You sort of close yourself off because you just feel like you've been hurt over and over again. But I think a lot of times it's just we're comfortable, we're having hope into something where it's like, maybe for myself, I know it was just like, maybe the things that I do want, I can have all of that, just not with this person, but I wanted it with that person. So
that is beautiful. I love that. I can have all the things that I want, but just maybe not with this person. I left a 15-year marriage back in 2009, and I have to confess that in the third year, I knew I needed to leave. I knew I needed to leave. I had children, and they were very, very young children, and they both had developmental disability. And so because of that, I was like, I don't know if I could be a single mother. I feel like I stayed for, in some ways, the right reasons, and in some ways, definitely not the right reasons. And so for 12 years after that, I kind of suffered through the marriage. And it wasn't a marriage that I felt I was supposed to be in. And finally, after the 15th year, I couldn't do it anymore. And it was a very, very difficult decision. So what are some of the things that women and even men should consider when they're contemplating whether or not it's time to leave a relationship? What are some of the warning signs that people can consider that are like, red flags that this probably is not going to go the way I would like for it to go?
There's some things. One of the things that I feel like, especially in hindsight, is growth. If you're not growing, and I know it sounds easy to say when you're outside of it, but if you really feel like you're not growing in any way, for any amount of time, spiritually, mentally, just emotionally, in any way whatsoever, and you're able to keep giving and giving, but you're not being replenished in any way, that's a sign that, hey, I need to be watered too. I need something so I can grow and still be my best in this relationship. Another sign for me is if you see a lot of selfishness, and on both ends, not just the other person's end, but on your end. Sometimes it's like, you know what, maybe I do need to be by myself because I don't know how to give, or maybe the other person, there's just too much. They're thinking about me so many times, and they don't think about us or include me in our plans as well, or the plans that are supposed to be us. So I think that, those are just a few signs to think about when thinking, hey, should I be in this relationship? Is this relationship helpful to the both of us? Especially when you've exhausted everything that you can. You could go to sleep at night saying, I've tried and, I've done whatever it is that I needed to do, and still things aren't changing. Then that's when I would say maybe it's time.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's interesting because those are the things that I looked at when I made my decision. And it was not easy. It really was not easy because it was a very comfortable relationship, especially from a financial point of view. And so there was that too, that I was like, what am I doing? But there was no growth, and it was definitely a one-sided, where there was a lot of giving and not a lot of receiving on my part. And then I did everything. I could possibly think of. But it's really interesting because even when you've gone through that analysis and you actually decide, okay, I'm doing this, and you do the deed, why is it that there's this kind of propensity toward regret or second guessing or self-doubt? And you talk about this in your book too, that happens after a relationship breakup. So what are some of the things that we can know ahead of time for those of you who are considering a breakup, or you just went through a breakup that you've initiated, that might be plaguing you today? How can we navigate that self-doubt?
Well, I guess there's several things. What I would say, and I said in the book, is that what you're going through is not something you've gone through alone. Many other people are going through it. We go through the roller coaster of emotions, I like to say, where one minute you're happy, the next minute, you regret it, then the next minute you're excited about your future. You're like, I'm going to do better and be better, and then you're mad, and then you're spying on them. Are they having a better life than me right now? You're just all over the place, and it's okay. You don't have to beat yourself up just for being, because it's just the phase that you're going to go through. But it would just be more so if you could just focus on yourself, change your perspective and focus on yourself. There's decisions that we make that are even outside of a relationship, whether it's a job or whatever else. And sometimes we're like, maybe I should have stayed, maybe this. But that's how change happens. It's not something where it's a sure thing all the time. You have to put your foot out and say, okay, you were good before this person. You were fine, and you could be fine again, in fact, better. And now you know what it is that you want. This only helped you to know more of what you want and what you need.
Yeah, I agree. One of the other things you talk about in your book is about maintaining a healthy relationship with God, your spiritual guidance, your spiritual support, which I agree is important. And then what you're talking about, which often gets missed, is making yourself a priority. Because many times in relationships, we give ourselves away in the relationship. So how can people learn how to make themselves a priority?
It's a step at a time. And then another thing for me, I know for a lot of women are natural nurturers. That's what we do. We like to nurture people, and we don't know how to do that for ourselves. And then we're like, I just feel this way and feel that way. We always feel a type of way, or we're not getting because we're not giving it to ourselves. And so for me, one of the things that I realized when I was doing this is I wasn't praying as much, which was something I was doing. I wasn't meditating anymore because I was more focused on, again, like I said earlier, my relationship and this guy. I'm like, did you eat today? Are you okay today? When you go to work, are you fine? And then I'm making sure our relationship is good, but I wasn't taking care of me. I thought me doing that for him and me making sure our relationship was on the right track was me taking care of me. But that was just me somewhat being selfish and making sure that I was getting what I want from my goal list. And so I really needed to sit down and just be like, no, what is it that you really like to do? Why did you stop doing this, that, and the other, and go back to doing those things. I had to learn to put myself on the top of my to-do list because I wasn't even on it at one point. So I was like, okay, go back to that. You can do that again. Like, stop sacrificing yourself. Did you drink the water, the amount of water you're supposed to drink today? Like, when you know how to take care of yourself, like when you leave the nest of your parents and you're like, oh, I actually have to do this for myself. Well, continue doing what the things that you need to do and the things that you actually wanted to do. And then when you join together with someone, you should be able to do those things and still have your own separate stuff, but then join together and do things together and support each other.
You know, I love how this is beautiful. I just love your wisdom. And I know you're not, I'm 59, and I know you're much younger than I am, but I really do appreciate the wisdom that you're bringing forth with this beautiful young voice you have, because what you pointed out is so important about how you were doing things, checking in on him, nurturing him. But even in that nurturing of him, it was coming from your awareness that it was coming from a place of, actually, dare I say, selfishness, because it was for you. You did that in order to fulfill and achieve your goal list, which was the final outcome of still, in a sense, maintaining and controlling that relationship. So beautiful insight that you just brought forth. And you have so many other insightful moments within your book that you share with those who read it, you know, about being, and it's coming from such an authentic and real and very wise place. So thank you for sharing that, because I think someone listening needed to hear that. They really needed to hear that, the way that you brought that forth. So thank you so very much. So I know we're going to go into a break in about a minute or so, but I do want to talk about, when we return, how can we begin to trust ourselves to make better decisions, especially when it comes to choosing our next partner and long-term mate? Stay tuned for more of Intuitive Transformations on OMTimes Radio with Sylvia Henderson. We'll be back in just a few moments.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Hey, let me ask you something. Would you seat your 3-year-old child on a windowsill? Would you seat them beside a lit fireplace or by the deep end of a pool? One last question. Would you seat your child in a car seat that's not correct for them? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Secure their future. Seat them in the correct car seat. For more information, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
So have music playing. Welcome back, everyone. This is Sylvia Henderson with Tatiana Jerome, and this has been such a fun conversation so far. I just can't wait to get into it even deeper. I want to remind everyone you can get her book by going to intuitivetransformations.net and buying it from the radio show bookstore. And before we went to the break, Tatiana, I kind of teased out a question, and that really is, you know, especially given the fact that women are naturally nurturers for the most part, and how easy it is to fall into that giving yourself away in a sense in order to get what you really want to fulfill your own goals that you may not even be aware of that that's what you're even doing from kind of a selfish space, So how do we begin to trust ourselves? It seems like we fall into giving ourselves away so naturally. It's almost like drinking water. So how can we start to trust ourselves so that we can make better decisions and choose ourselves and make ourselves the priority?
I would start with forgiveness. Forgiveness with past decisions. I know a lot of times it's hard for us to forgive ourselves and the other person. A lot of times we're like pointing the finger. I'm in this position because of you. And, I could have done better. Like, it's always like dwelling in the past. And I think a lot of times we need to be able to accept a lot of the things that we've done, but that doesn't mean we have to crucify ourselves for what we've done. It's a mistake. It's a simple learning lesson, or I needed to go along this path to get to a better place. So I do believe forgiveness towards the other person and forgiveness towards ourselves gets us there. Then afterwards, I would just say, like before, baby steps, and how you said with the show, having fun. Have fun with your life and just take little baby steps along the way. Because I do know that with some of the women that I've helped, they would say, at the end of the day, there were mind games played. And it's like, okay, we're too grown for mind games. No more mind games. If you feel like you're in a mind game relationship, that's another sign, get out. You don't want to be in that kind of situation. You really want, especially when you're looking for a life partner. I don't even want to say looking for a life partner, but when you want a life partner to be welcomed in your life, you don't want an atmosphere where mind games can be played. So I do believe, again, forgiveness and also having fun and also taking it a step at a time in terms of making certain decisions where it's like, okay, it's almost like accomplishing goals where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to take this step no matter how scary it is. I want to reach this goal, so I'm going to take it and see where it goes, because we can't let a mistake that we've made before or a situation or an experience stop us from making decisions for ourselves in the future. We still have a lot of life left, whether many of us say it's short, yes, but we still have days, and we want to make the best of our days.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So let's talk about some of the, we've talked about what you can do to support yourself as you, assess whether or not it's a relationship to stay in. And when you decide this isn't a relationship, what to do after you've made that decision. So you also talk about what you should never, ever, 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 ever do after you break up. And one of the things you pointed out already was, are you spying on him? Is his life better than yours, or her life better than yours? So is your ex's life better? That's one thing. Let that go. What else should we never, ever, 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 ever do?
There's a lot of things outside of trying to see if this person is happy without you. Befriending their friends all of a sudden. If you guys were never friends, this is not the time to all of a sudden be friends just to see what's going on. I would say definitely, trying to contact that person. I do have a personal rule. It's like credit. If 7 years haven't gone by, that there's no reason for us to be talking, because I do feel like there's feelings. I know that some people are able to do that beforehand, but for me, I just feel like, there's still motivation behind it. I've had exes contact me, and it's really not a friendship type of situation. And I'm like, okay, let's just give this some time. I feel like there has to be time before a true friendship could come from this, where we both have to move on in our lives, and we could both look back and say, hey, okay, we just weren't good for each other then, but we did have good times. But there's just certain things like hooking up with your ex. It's just like, no, leave it alone. No.
Yeah, that would be a definite no.
Yeah, don't do it. And if you have already, don't do it again. Like, just, don't Because I know
Yeah.
sometimes we slip and we fall, and we're like, I just really miss it. And then you're just like, no. We're not going to do that again. We can move forward.
You also talk about things that I think people could easily fall into that without realizing the long-term damaging effects. And that is, constantly talking about that ex-partner in a very negative way, kind of like wanting to ruin their reputation with other people that you know, and just really let them know what a terrible person that they are from your point of view. Also, talking badly about your ex with your children, that's probably something else people should avoid. Even connecting with your ex's previous relationships before they with you to kind of, I don't know why people do that, but to commiserate, I guess, and say, did they treat you this bad? Did they treat you this way? What did you think about
that? Stop me from talking to you.
Right. And then it keeps the pain alive, and it does not allow you to move forward, which is ultimately what the goal is. It's like you said, just recognize it was a mistake and then move on from that. But I will say this, it gets a little more challenging if you have been in a long-term relationship with someone and you have children, because then you have to communicate. So do you have any advice for how to negotiate that? Because I'm sure that there's tension on both sides of that relationship. And how does one begin to negotiate that when you have to communicate?
Funny. It really is funny that you asked me that, because just earlier today I was talking to a friend of mine who actually has 2 kids with 2 separate women, and he even brought up, from his perspective and how he wants to be there for his kids and everything else. And for me, I am not in that situation. When women who have been in that situation ask me, the simplest thing is, I always say, get a third party. If you're not in a situation where you can talk to someone, to that person, get a third party. Even if you don't want everyone in your business, if there's someone you could trust, or if you have to take it legally, or, sometimes you don't have the money for it, just get someone mutual who could just do this with you guys and who's okay with doing it. And when I spoke to him today, he said the same thing. He's like, I don't even, I've tried. I just got in an argument the other day with one of them, and I can't. Like, we just have to get someone else to do this in order for us to have a fair relationship.
Yeah. One of the things...
for me, that's the advice.
One of the things that I also would suggest is, maybe if you can't do the legal thing and get it all spelled out in documentation, start working with a counselor or a coach that can help you negotiate that as well, how best to do that. It might mean that the best communication for you is email. I don't suggest texting, but email might be the best form of communication if the relationship is still very hostile, especially because you have children involved. And just really keep in mind that anytime you are having interactions with that other person, your ex, especially if you're come out of a marriage, that, your children are always watching. And when they're involved, you kind of have to step out of yourself a little bit and allow their emotional well-being to take a little bit of a priority. While you're making yourself a priority, also make your children a priority, I guess I would say, because they still love that other person. That's their parent. That's a part of them. And if going back to what you've already talked about in your book about not talking negatively to your children about your ex, because when you do that to a child and that person knows that other person is a part of them, in some ways it affects them to, do I need to be disloyal to this person? Do I need to choose sides because one of my parents has chosen a side? It's just not a fair place to put your kids. And so I just want to encourage anyone considering going through a divorce, or you're in the aftermath of a divorce and there's children involved, to just really consider that how you respond to your ex. As you do that, you're teaching your children how to respond in relationships as well. And then just one other thing. Go ahead, Tatiana.
Oh, it's really so, I don't want to say crazy, but it's a fine line, because it's sort of, there are women and men who they talk to their child, and it's like the child is their best friend, of course, and they're saying all these things like they're venting to their child, and you don't realize that it's sort of letting the child lose a part of their innocence, and where they're no longer, they're like defending you, and it's like, now I have to be my mommy's mommy because I want to make sure my mommy's okay, or I have to make sure my daddy's okay. So it's like now they're nurturing you and they're taking care of your emotional needs. They're looking out for you. And a lot of times, you don't want that. But at the same time, you're looking for someone to vent to. So you want to keep all that away from the kid. That's not their role in your life to be, like, oh, my gosh, my mommy, this and that. And then now that's their burden. And they feel like they have to protect you over that reason. It's their other, just like you said, that is the person you had a child with, and there's no reason to talk bad about that person's parent, like your child's parent. There's no other reason, because you wouldn't want that for you as well.
Exactly. And for those of you who are listening and you're like, well, oh no, I've already done that. I've already been venting horribly to my child. Let yourself off the hook and forgive. Just change the behavior. Change the behavior, and then further down the road, have great heart-opening conversations with your child.
Right. If your child plays baseball, you like, you know what, your dad's a great pitcher.
Yeah, you can start counterbalancing that by bringing in what's positive that they can associate with. That's a great idea. So we're going to go into another break, and when we return, we'll continue this conversation about love lost and love found. We'll be back in just a moment.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Did you just look down at your phone? You did it again, didn't you? You're flying down the road in a 3-ton hunk of steel, and a text takes your eyes off the road for an average of 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's long enough to travel the length of a football field and cause some serious damage. Turn it off. Trust me, whatever it is, you'll live.
Learn more at StopTextStopWrecks.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
So we are back after that very quick break. And Tatiana, we've talked a lot about, how to identify in the relationship, whether or not we should leave it or stay, and what to do once we make that decision to leave from a healthy point of view and perspective. And the next question I have for you is, how do we know when it's time for us to find love again, or to have love come back into our lives from a place where we've healed and that we feel safe, that it's okay to love again? Because what I have seen some people do, not all, but what I've seen some people do is immediately after they've had a breakup, they go right into a new relationship. And oftentimes they could just repeat the patterns from the old relationship because they've never taken time to step back, implement some of the things you talk about in your book, like forgive themselves, forgive the other person, really let that relationship go, not just from stepping away from it, but just even emotionally really disconnecting from that and getting the lessons that you learned from that relationship so you're not carrying it into the next relationship. Or people will even stay in a relationship because they want to make sure there's another relationship there before they leave that relationship.
Right.
So there's a sense of urgency of, oh my God, I just don't want to be alone, and like have to really think about who I am and why all this happened. So how can someone begin to know and understand when they are ready for love to come into their life again? What are some of the things that they can look for as a signpost along that journey?
I feel like you'll know when you're ready, when you're actually in a space of love for yourself. You're no longer bitter. You're no longer worried. Like you're in a place of peace. And you know this. It's not because you said you're in a place of peace, but you actually feel that way within you. And you actually love the things that are going on in your life and what you're doing. And I do believe that when you're in that space of love, you're like, I love what I do. I actually, love my job and everything else. Then it's so much easier to welcome in someone who is similar to you in terms of love. Because, misery likes company. If someone's miserable, you attract other people that are miserable. So it's somewhat of the same way. When you're in a place of love, you're going to bring in someone who's also in a place of love in their life as well. You guys just join forces together. But it's so funny, like you said, because I did have a friend like that. She got out of a 5-year relationship, and from there she got into a 4-month relationship, which she said was even better than the 5-year relationship. And then after that, she got into another relationship, but I don't even remember how that was much shorter. And once after that, she just said, I've had it. I need time for myself. Like she knew that she needed that space because her jumping from one relationship to the next wasn't helping her at all. And she knew she was looking for something, but it still wasn't being provided to her. She's like, I got to get myself together. And sometimes I do feel like, especially what I was going through, some of the things that I didn't like in my relationship or in the person were actually a reflection of me, things that I didn't even know I had going on within me. So I needed space for myself to get those things together so I don't bring that in my space.
Yeah, that is so, so, so important. And so, Tatiana, I don't want to forget to let everyone know, how can they find you and get in touch with you? Would you mind sharing your website with those who are listening?
Yes, it's TatianaJerome.com. So on there I have a lot of resources in terms of quotes and biblical scripture and affirmations and videos. And then also on Facebook, I am Tatiana Jerome. And on Instagram, same thing.
Awesome. And Tatiana is Tatiana, and it's Jerome with a J, JEROME.com. So, this has been so much
I know. Fun. A lot.
I know. We've covered a lot of ground, and that's what I really love is it's a topic that I think everyone can relate to at some place in their life, no matter what age you are. And speaking of age, and so, the age that we're in 2017, the age of technology. As you said, you're on Instagram and Facebook. And so, when you feel that you're ready to dip your toe back out there in the arena of saying, even, everything, how can I say this? I feel like life in the universe responds a little bit to our action and mostly to our intention and our vibration. You've already healed yourself from within. And like you said, everything is a mirror, so that you are loving your life and loving yourself, and then you're able to bring someone in who can respect and value that as well, instead of just trying to get you to only love them and love their life. How can people, step out and meet people? Because for the most part, we live very isolated lives as we become adults. It's not like being in college where you have this huge gene pool to choose from, on campus.
Yeah.
And, finding people in the workplace is often frowned upon. And going to the bar is not always the best place to meet people, although there has been success there. I mean, what do you suggest that people do if they're ready? They've gone to that place where they really do love themselves. And it's almost kind of like, I don't really need someone to make me feel like I can love my life. I love my life just because I love my life. But I would like to have that partner now in my life who loves their life, and we can have this mutually respectable relationship and truly value one another.
Well, first, I would not be closed-minded to going anywhere, honestly, just because if I go there, and this is not a place where I typically go, but I'm like, let me try it out. How do I know that someone else is not thinking, well, let me try it out? This isn't a place I typically go either, So it's like I wouldn't cross anything out per se. I would just try it out. Now, at the same time, maybe it's someplace you probably don't like to go, and you probably wouldn't want your partner there all the time. You're like, why are you here all the time? But
why do they know you by name?
Yeah, like you're always at the bar, always. So I just like, what's going on? But at the same time, it's like the things you like to do. Let's say you love to cook. I mean, maybe you're always at the grocery store. We don't have to you may find someone at the grocery store. Maybe you like going to ball games. Maybe you like a basketball game or two. Go there instead of watching it from your home, the comfort of your home. Go to a place where they show it. I mean, there's just certain things where I just, again, feel like go to things that you actually like to do, so that way when you meet someone that that likes to do those things, you're not faking it. This really is who you are. You don't have to, if I wasn't a cook, that's the example I give. I don't cook. And then I'm planning myself by some whatever recipe or whatever, the baking section, trying to figure out something because I'm hoping I meet someone there. And then that person expects me to really cook because I'm planning this image like, oh, yeah, I do cook. Yeah, I'm here all the time. But that's not you. Why would you want that? So that's why I just feel like people should be authentic to themselves and just go ahead and do things that that you really like to do, but also try new things as well to see if you would actually like it. And it's not to say that you may meet a person there, but you don't know if you'll meet a friend or someone new who will introduce you to someone else. You just never know the course of what life will take you to get it, but you do need to step out your house.
Don't you know? I know.
Like the mailman could be a possibility if he's not taken, So,
right, or the UPS driver.
There you go. You're like, well, at least I know where he is when he's at work. I know he's going to make his round.
Exactly. That's great.
Exactly.
That's great. You touched on something that I think is incredibly important to Tatiana, and that is being authentic, really showing up as you, So this has to do with this sense of that selfishness, trying to get that goal by trying to control the relationship, and showing up as what you believe that other person would really like, instead of just showing up as yourself authentically. I mean, I think that is huge, and I think that is kind of what what creates a spiral downward in most relationships, is that initial meeting, is that showing of yourself and what you perceive to be your best light. And there's nothing wrong with always looking your best and being your best, but when it becomes a performance of who you're not really, authentically are, then it's hard to keep tap dancing like that, in a relationship. Eventually you'll get tired and the truth will be revealed. I think that's really...
You're going to forget your lines.
Exactly, right? Oh, what was it that I was supposed to like? Oh, yeah, that's right. I do like that. Oh, do I? I don't know. I know it's a lot to, trying to win that approval. It's not worth it. I'd rather have, I know I would rather have someone love me for me, not this persona, but really who I am, because then who are they in love with? They're in love with something that's not, it's like, some ways it's a rejection of yourself by not allowing that yourself to be fully seen with a partner that you would want to fully see as well. You wouldn't want them to put on a facade and a false image. One of the things I also really appreciated from your book, Tatiana, is this really can apply to all of your relationships, all of your friendships as well. Like if you're single and look at your friendships with your girlfriends or with your guy friends, and start asking yourself some of these questions too. Are you losing yourself in those relationships? Because that's a great arena for you to safely practice and clean up your your habits of giving yourself away in those relationships. And you might find that you may have to say goodbye to some of your friendships, because if it's playing out in your friendships with your girlfriends and your guy friends, then it's definitely going to be playing out in your love relationships as well. So cleaning it up there is going to be very important. It feels a little safer to do that there too. Like those relationships can be more easily replaced. Even if you've had these relationships for 15 years, it's important. So Tatiana, Tatiana Jerome, thank you so much for joining me today on the show. This has been super fun, and I hope that everyone listening can certainly agree with that.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. Just know her book is coming out soon. Her book is out now, I'm sorry. Love Lost, Love Found, A Woman's Guide to Letting Go of the Past and Finding New Love. So goodbye, everyone, for now. Until next week, love to you, and whatever you believe is true for you. Bye-bye.